And with that out of the way, we can go right ahead and we can talk about the 2017 Warriors going up against the 2004 Pistons. So, Rasheed Wallace, he made a claim that the 2004 Pistons would dominate the 2017 Warriors, and obviously Draymond Green, he did not take lightly to that statement whatsoever. Now, the 2017 Warriors, they were arguably one of the best offensive teams to ever be assembled. They had Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, two of the best three-point shooters to ever walk the face of the earth. They also had Kevin Durant, who was one of the best mid-range shooters to actually still is one of the best mid-range shooters ever, and obviously he is one of the top two small forwards in recent NBA history, and the only player that he has not been better than in the previous decade is LeBron James. Aside from that, he's been arguably top 3, top 5, top 2, and he's always been in the conversation as being one of the best players in the NBA. Not to mention Draymond Green also being one of on the roster, one of the best NBA defenders that the league has seen. And then you also have Sean Livingston. He is one of those. He is one of the most underrated bench players that the league has seen. He is one of the more nostalgic one of the more nostalgia players. Like, if you are an NBA fan and like you know exactly just how good Sean Livingston really is, like there was when he was on the Warriors, it felt like this man would never miss a mid-range. He was just automatic from there. He is a force to be reckoned with. The team was a force to be reckoned with, and it was like the one and only team that guaranteed 2 championship wins. Like, I mean, when they were playing together, it was guaranteed that they would win every single time. Like, when they were healthy, they were winning. And this was a squad that was able to stay healthy. It was a squad that was able to keep on winning this no matter who was playing against them. They were just unbeatable. And Rasheed Wallace, he confidently asserted on the Sheed and Taylor podcast that his 2004 Pistons would easily handle the 2017 Warriors. Now, the Pistons, they are the only NBA team in NBA history that has won a championship without having a top 75 player on the roster. And despite not having a top 75 player on the roster, that doesn't mean that they didn't have a really good squad. Now, they had the two main players on the team were Chauncey Billups and obviously, like, you know, Wallace is one of the key players for the Pistons, but there was also with Chauncey Billups winning the Finals MVP in 2004, I'm surprised he wasn't named. He wasn't on the top 75 team, and honestly, it's surprising that Kyrie isn't on the top 75 team, but that is a completely different conversation right there. There was also Ben Wallace, who was on the Pistons championship team, and he is obviously one of the best defenders that the Pistons have ever had. He is a 4-time Defensive Player of the Year winner, and obviously him being known for his defense, it makes sense why he wasn't named on the top 75 list, because most of the time, like, at least now with how the voting and how the fan service goes to, if you aren't really good on the offensive side of the ball, then you aren't going to be that popular. But if you are good on the offensive side of the ball, then you are going to be a little bit more popular than the other person. And honestly, it's the fact that Wallace made this kind of claim towards the Golden State Warriors and their 2017 team, saying that his team would easily beat that team. It's a little bit difficult to envision, seeing as how, like, because that Kevin Durant team, in my eyes, it's one of the more unstoppable teams that the NBA has ever seen. Like, Wallace emphasized the Pistons' NBA record of holding teams to under 70 points, and it was a feat that he believed is unbreakable in the current high-scoring era, and he argued that this defensive strength would have overwhelmed the offensive juggernaut that was the 2017 Warriors. Now, I personally do not think that their defense would have overwhelmed the Warriors. I think they would have been just fine because, their offense was just way too good, having Curry, Clay, and Kevin Durant. It's just literally, it's too good. And Wallace's main points centered around the individual matchups. He believed that Steph Curry, despite his offensive brilliance, would struggle defensively against Richard Hamilton, who was also a really good member on the squad. But again, I don't really think that Richard Hamilton would have done much or would have made much of a difference when going up against these Warriors. And Wallace he also, like, I did mention Chauncey Billups, but Wallace also mentioned him, saying that Billups would have a significant size and strength advantage over any defender that the Warriors could put on him. And additionally, Wallace pointed out Tayshaun Prince's underrated scoring ability and argued that the Warriors were not accustomed to the physicality that the Pistons brought to the game. Draymond Green countered Wallace's claims by highlighting the scoring disparity and the strategic use of pick-and-roll plays that would exploit the Pistons' defensive setup. Obviously, whenever you implement this kind of spacing, and one of the things that, they mentioned how there was going to be a size mismatch between, like, Chauncey Billups and all of the other guards. There's also going to be a size mismatch with Kevin Durant and most of the small forwards and most of the power forwards, because it's like, the power forwards they're going to be tall, but they aren't going to be quick enough. And the small forwards are going to be quick enough, but they aren't going to be tall enough. So there's no one really on the roster that could maintain that kind of balance with Kevin Durant, especially if he decides to go off, because, he's got that move. He's got that in his arsenal. Now, Green's points about the Warriors' scoring ability suggest that the Pistons' defensive records wouldn't hold up against the high-octane offense of the 2017 Warriors. I agree with Draymond Green, and, the offense is just too powerful. Like, there's just no way that any team would be able to stop this kind of high-caliber offense, and the defense was it was a lot stronger in the paint than it was. Not saying that their perimeter defenders weren't all that great, but they didn't really have anything. They didn't really have any kind of defensive task like guarding Steph or guarding Kevin Durant or guarding Clay. That's a completely different story. So with that, that's basically all I have for this second segment. So now I will go ahead and go into the third segment, where I talk about Caitlin Clark and how she's been getting unnecessary hate from a lot of the WNBA players, and as well as some of the fans, but mainly talking about some of the players right after this short break. So stay tuned.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search